Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1966 and we're going to be taking a look at Magic Sam. And hopefully we're going to be looking at a couple of tracks. The first is going to be All Your Love and then the second is going to be Magic Sam's Boogie. In that second track is more riff based and we get to see a bit of Sam's technique close up. But let's get Sam up on screen and see how he gets on.
I like that.
And there we have it, that was All Your Love, and analysing what's going on with Sam, because straight away we've got that voice, just belting it out in chest voice, one of those things that all the top blues players could do, and having the ability to play the guitar at the top level as well is what set them apart from other performers, because here as well, Sam laying down some great blues lines, great lead playing here, and he's playing purely fingerstyle. You could see the way that he's supplying that rhythm with the thumb, but also the first finger, sometimes doing an upstroke with the first finger on those strings. So it's going to give it a unique sound, but also the speed of what he's playing isn't compromised because of the way that he's playing it with that right hand. He's got great technique on the left hand with the hammer-ons and pull-offs, which is a great way to speed up your playing. With the fingerstyle as well, he's just raking across those strings with the first finger sometimes. Another thing you'll find vocally with all the top blues players is that ability to keep the voice in chest, but also apply those classic trills and throwaway lines that you have at the end of a vocal phrase, and Sam certainly throws those in there. It's almost like they're simulating the sound of a lead instrument and their lead guitar to a certain extent with their voice, so that you get that lead voice and then you get that lead voice of the guitar as well. And sometimes with a blues performance you might have quite a big band in there and you might have keys and a second guitarist and a lot of things going on. Maybe vocally you might have backing vocalists, but here it's just Sam, just a three-piece with this setup, and what a great sound we get considering there's only three guys here. Also, Sam has obviously borrowed somebody else's guitar and just got up on stage. I don't know what might have happened with his own guitar. He certainly did own one, but it just goes to show that you don't need a whole room full of effects or a whole floorboard or multi-effects processor. Of course, 1966, they didn't have the luxury of that. Sam just takes somebody else's guitar and it's all in the fingers, and that's the case with the best players, is that they don't need a particular rig. They can just take a guitar and anybody's guitar and just sound like themselves playing it. And Sam was inspired to start playing the blues and picked up the guitar listening to artists like Little Walter, but also Muddy Waters as well, whose name pops up on this channel again. If you haven't checked him out yet, check out the video that I did on Muddy Waters. But when he was 19, he moved to Chicago, and this was a turning point in his career, because when he got to Chicago, he pretty much landed a record deal straight away with Cobra Records, and that lasted for 2 years. In 1957 is when he released this track, All Your Love. And the interesting thing about Sam as an artist is that within those 2 years of recording singles for Cobra Records, he didn't chart, so he didn't sell a hell of a lot of records, but he did gig a lot. And this was in Chicago, the west side of Chicago, in those venues where he'd make a name for himself, and just word of mouth was one of the most important things at the time. Of course, on TV, actually even having a TV in the first place was pretty rare, but having the ability to get exposure on TV was even more rare. So players like Sam just hit the clubs and through word of mouth started to get a following, and his music really did get spread around more through word of mouth and people actually experiencing it live than people buying records. Playing venues on the west side of Chicago, that west side sound was seen as a bit of a different take on the blues, a different blues sound, and that was attributed to guys like Buddy Guy and also Otis Rush, both of which you can find on this channel. And at this time, Sam did work briefly with homesick James Williamson. At this time, he was getting a following, playing live, playing lots of venues, but then he got drafted into the army, and unfortunately, he deserted the army and got a dishonorable discharge and was then put in prison for 6 months for that offense. And in 1963, Sam released his track called Feeling Good, We're Gonna Boogie, and that track gained him national attention. And from that, he then did a US tour, but also toured over here in the UK and also Germany. But we're just going to jump back into the video, and this is now going to be Magic Sam's Boogie. And there we have it. What I love about this second performance is the expression that Sam puts into just that riff, because it's just the guitar, it's just him playing, but you're absolutely into it. Just listening to it intently because of the groove that he's throwing in there. Again, we don't need a drummer because we're all absolutely on board, because the timing is so spot on and there's that groove that you can get a hold of. Of course, when the drums come in, it just adds so much to it. And you can also see the way that the drummer's got his wallet on the snare just to deaden it ever so slightly. Great players, great blues players would always have the ability to throw down a great vocal, and it's one of those things that maybe nowadays gets lost a little bit because people concentrate on playing the instrument and don't necessarily then work on their vocals, whereas back here, I always say in my other videos how you just had to be better than other people in order to get the exposure and to be featured, because there was no way that sometimes you could even get your face on the TV. It's all on the radio. People are judging you on what they can hear. And it really does level the playing field, because then it is all about the music. So following that success in 1963 and being able to tour internationally, in 1967 he signed a new record deal with Delmark Records, and 2 years after that, 1969, he had a breakthrough live performance at the Ann Arbor Blues Festival. And this is where the story takes a bit of a tragic turn, because in that same year, in December 1969, unfortunately, Sam died of a heart attack, and he was only 32 years of age. So, unfortunately, we never got to see Sam progress as a blues musician. He was already starting to make waves at the age of 32, and so many other blues artists we've seen in their 30s and 40s and 50s continue to tour and make a name for themselves. So unfortunately, people didn't get to see Sam blossom into a blues artist like you might have seen other players such as Buddy Guy, Otis Rush, that I mentioned before, because on this evidence, Sam was definitely up there, and I think would have been one of those legendary blues players had he had that advantage of another few decades of playing, because with his voice as well, he had that full package of playing, also had his own sound because of the way that he played lead guitar with that right hand, with that finger style. But thankfully, we've got a video like this that we can look back on, and we can see a couple of tracks, and we can see Sam in full flow, not only on the fretboard, but also vocally. But thank you so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!